On the one hand, the tools of
Mm-hmm.
marketing change all the time. What's hot, what's not. But what hasn't changed if you go back and you watch Mad Men, the 1950s, what has never changed about marketing is the underlying strategy. What is it that your customer wants? Who is your customer? Where do they hang out? What do they pay attention to? And yes, today there are new toys and new distractions, and there are reels and there are shorts. And now there's research saying that all of that just rots your brain.
This episode is sponsored by Atopic AI for Opportunity. Atopic is an AI-powered opportunity discovery platform, and the best word that I can describe it is ChatGPT. But instead of giving you information, it gives you real people you should be connecting with. Whether you're looking for clients, partners, investors, job prospects, or high intent leads, Atopic makes it simple. You just type what you're looking for, and the AI thinks through thousands of signals, and then surfaces verified prospects with context, not random lists. It even helps you follow up, nurture conversations, and track your pipeline. What I love about Atopic, and why I'm excited to have them as a sponsor, is that they're solving the biggest problem in business growth: finding the right people at the right time. If you haven't yet, go to atopic.com and try it. It's one of the smartest tools out there for people trying to grow their business. All right, everyone. On today's episode, we have Lorraine Ball, and I can't wait for her to share her expertise, share what she's all about, and just really inspire us. So, Lorraine, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Okay, so the short answer is I'm a career marketer. I started in corporate. I ran my own agency for 19 years and sold that. And now I'm kind of back to my roots of consulting, and I still do my podcast, and that's way, way fun.
That's awesome. I love that. And, as somebody who's in marketing myself, that's what we do. I respect you because it's a lot. It's a lot to learn and a lot you have to evolve all the time because everything changes so fast.
Oh my goodness. When I laugh because when I started my agency, we would do print. We did a lot of small business work. I was called the postcard queen. Okay. And then along comes email, and all of a sudden I could deliver a lot more messages very, very affordably. And then came social media. And with every new platform, we got some bloody noses. We ran straight into the fence, but we figured it out. And that, I think, was what allowed me to continue to run the business and run it successfully for as long as I did. And which is what also made my potential buyer so interested in the agency.
Yeah, I would agree with that. For me, I've been doing social media for 5 years now. This is crazy looking back just 5 years ago, how much different everything is.
I teach part-time at a local university, and one of the lectures is always on social media and the evolution of social media. And I put up a slide on the screen, and I'm like, okay, I have a profile on every one of these sites. Does anybody recognize any of them? And no, because they're all gone. And then the next slide is all the current sites. But things like Squidoo and Foursquare and just so many niche sites that came and went. And as a marketer, you've got to learn, I think, how to sort through okay, that looks interesting, but does it have any staying power? Because you can spend an awful lot of time learning to use a lot of different tools.
Yeah, that's for sure. I know I do it myself. There's a lot of softwares and tools that help you with creating content, creating videos. There's, but yeah, there's five softwares that I used to use. they're gone, or they're so far behind on times that I found a different one.
Absolutely. That whole evolve or die mentality, really, when it comes to software, if the software that you're using is not keeping up, you've always got to be looking for that. What's that next option? What's that next option?
Yep. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I learned because I know one of the softwares I used to use, they just stopped, like, I don't know if they sold, I don't know what happened, but I was like, uh-oh.
Mm-hmm.
So now I'm always like, I have the one that I like, and then I have one as backup, just in case.
Absolutely. I had a project management tool that I just loved, and they were purchased. And the company that purchased them absorbed them, and they had their own project management tool, and I didn't like it. And it didn't do. And I was like, well, could I just have this little one still? And they're like,
Yeah.
man, no, no.
No. Now, when it comes to, positioning yourself as like an expert in marketing, what are your top 3 tips that you would give someone?
So if you want to be positioned as an expert, well, first off, you got to do the homework. We're going to assume that you actually do have the chops. But then, as with any kind of brand positioning, what you really got to look at is who is your customer, who really needs what you've got, and then look around at who else is taken care of. Who else are they using? Are they working with another company today? And you got to figure out the answer to a really simple question. Why you? And if you can't answer the why you will never be able to position yourself as that expert. And I am going to give you a really big clue here. It ain't about price. And telling everybody that you do high quality work, none of your competitors are lining up telling customers they offer expensive, low quality work. So you've got to figure out what it is that you do differently. And does that different mean anything to your customers? When I was building the agency and trying to establish a reputation, there were a couple of little things that we did that really set us apart. And the first one was my expertise was really strategy. I did not like AdWords. Not that I didn't respect it as a tool. I did not want to screw with it. And so I positioned myself as a strategist. I understood a little bit about everything, but I also positioned myself as the go-to person. So part of my knowledge was not just what I knew, but who I knew. So when I sold the business, people still come to me and say, hey, Lorraine, I know you're not doing this anymore, but who do I work with? Well, I got a couple of friends that I recommend. I have some people that, depending on the service, might bring me in as a consulting role on some of the projects. Any of those kind of things come from what my original position was, which was strategy and what I knew. And that included the who I knew. So you got to figure out, is that you? If you want that to be you, how do you develop that skill so you actually can be that person?
Mm-hmm. That's some great advice. And you've got me over here thinking of how I can improve myself. So I thank you for those tips because I know I'm going to use them myself.
Good.
Yeah. And I love it's crazy how I ended up in marketing myself. And it's kind of a cool story. I started as a business coach, and that evolved into helping people with podcasting. And then I kept having people just reach out and be like, "Hey, you're doing really good with your own social media. Can you help me with mine?" And at first I was like, "No, never," because I didn't like doing my own, you know? But then I decided to take on a couple of clients, and I learned that I really liked doing it for others. It's, it's harder because it's a different company, it's not your own. But I think that's what I like, is I have to do a lot more work and thinking and researching than my own. So yeah.
It's funny because I think a lot of marketers started out not doing marketing. When I went to grad school, I was going to be an accountant. I was going to do computer programming. I was really there for the hard skills. And a couple of my professors sat me down and said, you think like a marketer. You really should consider it. Okay, going to go to corporate marketing. When I was in corporate, I was good at marketing, but what I was really good at was fixing dysfunctional teams. They would drop me in the middle of a department and I would do that. And so when I left corporate, I was like, you know what? That's what I'm going to do. And that is a really hard sale. When the economy is such that there are more people than jobs. For a lot of years, there were more jobs than people. And so employers were bending over backwards to keep their employees and et cetera. Right now, we're entering an era again where there's more people than jobs. And that's the way it was. Nobody wanted to pay for team building skills. Nobody wanted to pay for productivity and, building teams together. And so while I was trying to do that, people kept coming up to me going, I noticed that you're really good at marketing. You do your own stuff, just like people came to you and they were like, I was like, well, yeah, I did it for 10 years. I can do it, but it's not really what I want to do, but I got to eat. And one day I woke up and I realized I had a marketing company.
Yep.
Kind
Yeah.
of sneaks up on you.
It does. It does. I'm learning like so much right now because this is newer for us, doing it for other people. We've only been doing it for others for 8 months or so. So for me, it's like, okay, it's one thing to mess up my own marketing, but to mess up somebody else's, I don't want to be that guy. So I'm on YouTube every day learning something about how to market better and what's working these days, and like everything changes so fast with Facebook, Instagram, TikTok. Like they're all different. You gotta do different things, and they change fast.
On the one hand, the tools of
Hmm.
marketing change all the time. What's hot, what's not. But what hasn't changed if you go back and you watch Mad Men, the 1950s, what has never changed about marketing is the underlying strategy. What is it that your customer wants? Who is your customer? Where do they hang out? What do they pay attention to? And yes, today there are new toys and new distractions, and there are reels and there are shorts. And now there's research saying that all of that just rots your brain, which
Yep.
I kind of believe. But
Same.
but the underlying strategy, where are your customers hanging out? If you're targeting moms with young children, yes, Instagram is probably a really good place to be, but you know where else is a really good place to be? A sponsor of a kid's softball team. You know, it's
Yeah.
it's going where your customers are and not relying just online or just offline. I have a friend of mine who's running an agency right now, and she's made this huge switch, and she's way more profitable and way more happy. She was getting clients from all over the country. Fabulous. They would come in. It was all virtual. And then she started focusing on her community, and she lives outside a major metropolitan area. And it is an underserved community because everybody wants to go to the big meetups in the big city. But in her community, there are hospitals and banks and insurance companies, and they all need marketing. And all the big marketing companies were ignoring them.
Yep.
And so her switch really was to become the local marketing expert, joined the chamber, did classes, has relationships with 2 or 3 chambers all around. And it's really become about people referring her, and she meets them and she goes to their place of business. And it was never something she thought she was going to do, but she owns it. And so sometimes it's taken a look at, have you picked a target customer that's going to make you happy?
Well, to be honest, I think you just gave me the extra push I needed because, like your friend, I currently am doing everything online, and I live in a smaller town, but big enough.
Mm-hmm.
And I know a lot of business owners in town, and something that I struggle with is to go talk to them about my services. It's like, I feel like it's harder because I know them and you're more worried about what they're going to say and tell people and all that. Even though I'm the guy, if you watch my social media, I'm always telling people, stop caring about what other people think of you. Trust me, we all struggle with it. I struggle with it. But yeah, I think I want to thank you because I've been told many times you need to go to your hometown because there's a lot of opportunity there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah,
Absolutely. The thing that, on the one hand, it's scary sometimes to talk to people who already know you, but on the other hand, they'll cut you more slack. They'll give you that second look where someone who doesn't know you at all and someone who's just interacting with you on a computer screen isn't necessarily going to do. So it's, when possible. I mean, there are some businesses that really don't make sense local. I mean, there are some products that you really need to distribute nationally to get the kind of momentum that your business needs. But a marketing company with 5 to 10 employees serving a local community, and as long as there's enough, as long as there are enough small businesses in that community that you don't have to go really wide, you can own it. And that's becomes a really unique differentiator. You know,
yeah,
I'm in
I
your neighborhood. You can drop by.
yeah, and like you know, just a quick story. My dad used to own a company for 10 years, and he made relationship with almost every business owner in town.
Mm-hmm.
So I do know a lot of them, and you know that's gonna help me if I can just, or I should say, when I get out and do it. Not if
Absolutely.
it's gonna
Yes.
happen.
It, yes. And, I used to teach a lot of networking classes, and part of the trick is going to a networking event with a friend. Now, you're not allowed to hang out and talk with them the whole time,
Yep,
but you walk in, you have somebody you walk in with. And I used to do this with a couple of my friends. We would divide, we'd work the room a little bit and then come back together and say, hey, have you talked to that person yet? Or, hey, I want you to meet this person. And so you kind of double your exposure by having that other person work in the room, not next to you, but with you.
that's great advice. And me and my business partner, we have done a lot of networking events, and we do tend to stay close. And I remember the last couple that we did were like, go talk to people, so it
Yes,
helps a lot. Helps a
it
lot.
does. It
Yep.
does.
So
Cool.
yeah, that was some awesome advice. I appreciate you so much. You know, you're amazing. And I do have a question that I ask every guest on this show. So my slogan is your abilities are infinite. What does that mean to you?
I love that slogan because it really is intensely optimistic. It really is looking at the world and saying, you can do it. You know, you have the possibility to do what you set your mind to. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to drop into your lap. You know, your abilities are infinite. They give you the opportunity to hit walls and find ways around them, but it doesn't promise that it's going to be easy. So I think it's the right balance of realism and optimism.
Yep, I agree. I think that was awesome. Thank you for sharing that. And for the listeners, what is one last thing that you would like to leave them with today?
I think that business owners and marketers need to find where it makes the most sense for them to play. And whether that's local or national, I think it also applies to things like social media because you can run yourself ragged. Now, when I'm working with clients, I may have to play on multiple channels. But if you're looking for me, you're going to find me on LinkedIn. That's where I play. That's where my community is. That's where I have the best interactions that are both fun and related to my business. So figure out where you want to play, where your customers are. And if that doesn't match, you might need new customers.
Yep, I agree with that. All right, thank you so much for being on the show and helping me and the audience. I really appreciate you.
You're welcome. Thank you so much. This was fun.
If you enjoyed this show, please go ahead and share it on your Instagram story and tag me in the Nick Yerhart. Also, go ahead and share it anywhere else that you see fit, because the only way that I can grow this is by you guys sharing it. I don't sell anything on here. I don't have any sponsors, so let's just get it out there by word of mouth and help more people. Alright, everyone, remember, your abilities are infinite.